If you're the person who is always called nice, helpful, and so easy to get along with, there's something you desperately need to know. While others seem to have no problem saying no or putting themselves first, you're the one lying awake at 2 a.m., replaying a conversation where you agreed to do something you didn't want to do, just to avoid a moment of conflict. You feel responsible for everyone's happiness, and it is utterly exhausting. Everyone has told you the same thing. You're a wonderful person. You're so generous. You're a saint. But here's what psychology is beginning to understand, and what I'm about to prove to you. What if your lifelong need to be good isn't a virtue at all? What if your people-pleasing isn't a character flaw, but a highly advanced survival system that's been working in overdrive? I know that sounds crazy. You've built your entire identity on being the good person. But psychology shows us there's a reason you feel resentment after being nice. There's a reason your kindness often feels like a performance. There's a reason society praises your self-sacrifice while it slowly drains the life out of you. And by the time we come back to this moment, you replaying that conversation in your head, you will understand your goodness in a completely different way. You'll discover your need to please isn't a weakness. It's a superpower you don't know how to control. Let me show you what the science reveals. Here's the secret nobody talks about. When you constantly adjust yourself to make others happy, it's not because you're weak. It's because you have a highly sensitive radar for social danger. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's at a dinner party with friends, and an argument starts to get heated. While everyone else gets tense, Sarah can't help herself. She feels an almost physical need to fix it. She cracks a joke, changes the subject, and instantly, the tension in the room drops. Everyone relaxes. On the outside, she's the hero. Inside, she's exhausted. She just spent all her energy managing everyone else's emotions. Sound familiar? Here's what was really happening. Sarah wasn't just being nice. She was acting as a human thermostat. Her brain is so finely tuned to the emotional temperature of a room that she automatically adjusts it to a safe level. This isn't a choice. It's a deeply ingrained reflex. This superpower was almost certainly learned in childhood. Maybe you had to manage a parent's unpredictable moods. Maybe you learned that being quiet and agreeable was the only way to avoid conflict. You became an expert at reading the room, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Your brain isn't broken. It's just still running a survival program that you no longer need. That impulse to say yes, to smooth things over, to swallow your own needs, that's not virtue. It's a lightning-fast response from a brain that learned long ago that other people's disapproval is a threat. So the next time you feel that compulsion to keep the peace, remember Sarah's story. You're not just being nice, you're a master of emotional regulation. But what if that skill wasn't just for others? What if you could finally use it for yourself? Remember Sarah, the human thermostat? Well, that constant emotional management comes at a hidden cost. Because when you're a people pleaser, you don't just give kindness, you invest it and you expect a return. Let me introduce you to James. He's the guy who will drop everything to help a friend move, lend money he can't spare, and listen to the same crisis on the phone for hours. He does it all with a smile. But here's what James doesn't realize. Every yes he gives is a clause in a contract he wrote that the other person never signed. He thinks, if I do all this for them, they'll be there for me. They'll appreciate me. They won't leave me. Then the day comes when James needs help. He calls his friend who says, "Sorry, I'm just too busy." The smile on James's face vanishes. He feels a wave of cold, bitter resentment that he doesn't dare show, because showing it would mean he's not the good guy anymore. This is what I call the covert contract. It's a secret agreement you make where you trade your goodness for security, approval, or love. It's not altruism, it's a transaction. And your resentment is the receipt that proves the other person defaulted on a deal they never knew existed. This has been happening forever. Philosophers like Schopenhauer saw it clearly. Behind many acts of virtue is a selfish will, a deep primal drive to get our needs met. Your people-pleasing isn't an act of pure love. It's your brain's strategy to guarantee you won't be rejected or abandoned. That bitterness you feel isn't because you're a bad person. It's a signal. It's your psyche screaming, "Warning! Your strategy for connection is failing." The pain isn't that they said no. The pain is the terrifying realization that your goodness didn't buy you the safety you thought it would. So here's the question that changes everything. What if your resentment isn't something to be ashamed of? What if it's the key to understanding the price you've been paying for being good? So far, we've seen how Sarah's radar keeps her on high alert and how James's covert contract leads to resentment. But here's what's truly insidious. The whole system is designed to praise you for staying in this trap. Let me tell you about Maria. At her job, she's celebrated as the ultimate team player. She takes on extra work without complaint, never pushes back in meetings, and always says yes with a smile. She gets glowing reviews, but Maria feels hollow. She sees her own ideas ignored while she helps build out projects she knows are flawed. She's rewarded not for her talent, but for her silence. Maria is living in what I call the goodness prison. It's a prison where the bars are made of praise and the guards are social expectations. Society loves people pleasers. Companies, families, and friend groups run more smoothly when someone is willing to absorb all the friction. They don't praise you because they care about your well-being. They praise you because you are convenient. Think about it. You were taught to be good before you were taught to be honest, to be polite before you were taught to be authentic, to be selfless before you were taught to have boundaries. This isn't an accident, it's social programming. The system fears people who are truly authentic. Someone who says, "No, that's a bad idea," or "I don't have the energy for that right now," is a disruption. But you're the perfect, compliant gear in the machine. This is why you feel so drained. You are spending all your energy upholding a system that is actively preventing you from being your true self. The praise you get is not for who you are. It's a reward for how well you hide who you are. So when you feel that exhaustion from being good, remember this. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're living in a prison everyone tells you is a palace. You're not broken. You're not too needy. You're not selfish. You're just finally realizing that the price of being good is your own soul. Remember where this journey started? Sarah, the human thermostat, James with his broken covert contract, Maria trapped in the goodness prison. Now comes the part that changes your entire life. What happens when you finally stop being good and start being real? Let me tell you about Alex. For his entire life, his default answer was yes. Yes to favors, yes to extra work, yes to plans he hated. His calendar was full, but his life felt empty. Then one day a coworker asked him to take on a huge part of a project over the weekend. The old Alex would have sighed and said, "Sure, no problem." But this time, he took a deep breath. His heart was pounding. He said two simple words, "I can't." The room didn't explode. His coworker didn't hate him. In fact, they just said, "Okay, no worries, I'll figure something else out." That tiny moment was an earthquake for Alex. He realized something profound. Your no doesn't destroy relationships. It reveals which ones are real. This is what I call the revolution of no. It's the brave, terrifying, and liberating act of choosing your own well-being over someone else's approval. Every time you do it, you're not being selfish. You are being honest. Think about it. When you say yes but mean no, you are lying. You're presenting a fake version of yourself and creating a relationship based on that lie. When you finally say no, you give the other person a gift, the truth. You give them a chance to know the real you. Your people-pleasing radar doesn't have to be a curse. Now you can use it consciously. You can feel that urge to say yes, and instead of obeying it, you can ask yourself, am I acting out of fear or out of genuine desire? This isn't about becoming a jerk. It's about becoming authentic. It's about having your actions finally match your feelings. When James finally stopped overgiving, he lost some friends, but the ones who stayed were the ones who loved him, not what he could do for them. When Sarah started letting conversations be a little awkward, instead of rushing to fix them, she found she had more energy for the people who truly mattered. The world doesn't need another smiling, exhausted martyr. It needs you, the real you, with your limits, your needs, and your honest no. This is your revolution. And it starts not with a bang, but with a quiet, powerful, and honest refusal. Are you ready to say it? Here we are again. You're lying awake, thinking about all the things you have to do for everyone else. But something's different now. That exhaustion you feel, it doesn't feel like a character flaw anymore. It feels like a signal. You're not a doormat. You're a human thermostat with a highly advanced radar. That resentment you feel isn't your ugliness. It's the pain of a one-sided contract. That need to be good isn't your virtue. It's the bars of a prison you're finally ready to leave. You're not exhausted because something's wrong with you. You're exhausted from the performance of being someone you're not. The psychology is clear. Your people-pleasing was a brilliant strategy to survive. But now it's time to learn how to thrive. Every authentic person you admire has walked the same path. They learned what you now know. Real connection doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being real. So the next time you feel that pressure to say yes, remember this. The world doesn't need your sacrifice. It needs your honesty. Here's my question for you. Now that you know your goodness has a hidden cost, what is the first no you are going to give so you can finally give yourself a yes? If you're ready to join a community of people learning to trade their goodness for authenticity, hit that subscribe button, because your real life is just beginning. Remember, you don't have to be good, you just have to be you.